This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
PTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. It is Tuesday, June 21st. We have an absolute banger of a show today. Fresh off of his win at the James River, Nick Lebrun joins the program, and then in the second half, we will catch up with Grae Buck, who just missed the cut. He actually led the first couple days there and then finished 11th, which isn't, I don't want to say like a punch to the gut, but when they zero the weights going into the final round, then 11th is like, man, what could have been? But what was Nick Lebrun doing something that has only been done two other times in the history of the FLW Tour, now the Tackle Warehouse Major League Fishing Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, which is still a mouthful that I'm trying to get used to. But back-to-back wins got the job done on stop number 4 at Gunnersville, and then did the same thing this past week on the James River. So we'll get Nick on. He is actually, I don't know where he's driving to, but he was kind enough to stop in the boat-friendly metropolis of Atlanta. If you've ever tried to tow a boat through Atlanta, you know that there's usually a time where you like stop, you make sure everything's good, you check the tires, you make sure you have fuel, you grab the wheel with both hands and you say, all right, let's roll. And you do not stop, because they do not stop for you in Atlanta. So we will get right to Nick Lebrun. There he is right there. Dude, thanks for pulling over in Atlanta. That is probably like I tow a boat a lot and have as many people who listen to the show and as you do as a professional angler. Atlanta's a different animal when it comes to getting through that area, isn't it?
Yeah, you're either going 80 miles an hour.
Uh-oh. I think I lost you audio-wise. You there? Did I lose your audio? Oh, he was so good. We've got a great signal, and then we lost him. I do not have you on audio, Nick. Hold on. Let me hit some buttons here. Do I have you now? Go ahead and
now.
Yeah, I got you back. You're back.
All right. That's
the only thing that's gone wrong for you in the last 8 months. But no, we were talking about the adventure that is Atlanta traffic, especially in the daylight hours. I always try to get through there at like midnight or 1, which then you get the guys going 100, 110. But
yeah, that's
no
in between.
Area?
It's no in between. You're, like I'll be in the left lane, going 75-ish. And, I try to stay at least, 100 foot from somebody in front of me, but that you can't do that because people whip around you and cut in front of you. And it's like if you're not right up on somebody's bumper, you're not doing it right in Atlanta. And so it's kind of annoying, but just part of it playing this game, traveling around, pulling these boats everywhere,
More stressful going through Atlanta or driving to the Chick for 4 days, knowing that history and 100K was on the line?
Option number 2 all day long. That run is brutal, especially if you've never been there. It's stressful. It's treacherous. Glad it's over.
Did you cut the flat going into the mouth of the Chick? Because every time I fish through in the opens, if I've had a local, I look at them and I say, now I know we're wasting 4 minutes. I said, but I am avoiding that because I hear that there's a lot of death-defying things that are on that giant flat.
Yeah, I'd cut it a little bit more every day. My courage kind of grew as every day went on. And I think on day 2, I was following Jeff Bridges out a chick, and he cut it like way short. And so I followed him and trimmed up, and so every day it got a little bit easier, but still nerve wracking. I mean, because if you got a bag and you're running back and you get on sand, you're done.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we saw Jamie Horton get pulled off of
yeah.
sandbars, and I know there's always some horror stories about the James because you can just look at the tide then and realize I'm here for several hours at least.
Yeah, it's different. People say, "Well, you're from Louisiana, you should be used to it." No, I'm in Northwest Louisiana, and I'm 5 hours from any kind of coastal stuff, and we don't have tide on Caddo Lake. That's just not cool.
Really cool what you did, back-to-back wins, and I've had a lot of guys on who've won. We had Brandon Lester on a couple weeks ago. Bill Lowen talked about it, and these guys who have won and won multiple. We've seen a lot of guys that have won kind of multiple tournaments recently have all talked about the, I guess, adrenaline rush or the desire to win again once they've won. You've won a lot all the way going back to 2018, but these back-to-back wins, let me see if I can word this. Does winning make winning easier, Nick?
Well, it's definitely a confidence booster and a momentum builder, and just it's really all glory to God, because every once in a while you need a little confirmation to know that you're in His will and this is what you're supposed to be doing, and so a win kind of will help that mindset and get that confirmation. But after you win one, it's kind of like going to the Bassmaster Classic. You want to do it again, and again. So getting that first win, it just kind of brought it to reality. Like, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and people like me. That's an old SNL throwback, but it's just about momentum. And whenever you get that first win, you kind of say, well, hey, that wasn't as crazy as it sounds. And, let me keep fishing to win and keep myself in position. And I'd like to win again someday. But I just didn't know that it was God's plan for it to be a few weeks later.
The format with 2 days practice and then an off day. 2 days is not a lot of time to look around the James River.
Goes by like that.
How did you break that down and end up in the winning area out of all the options you had, specifically this time of the year too?
Yeah, so with Pro Circuit, I kind of like 2 days of practice because I've got a young family, and it's hard being gone. And I kind of enjoying that off day that we have. But when you only have 2 days of practice in a place that's big as James River and you've never been there, in my research, I decided not to go up there for pre-practice. One, it's 16 hours, and that's a long way to fish a few days and come back and then go back up there, especially with fuel being $5.39 for diesel here in Atlanta. But in my research, I saw all those cypress trees, and I kind of just had a peace about it. I'm like, well, I think I'm going to be all right. So, and a lot of those cypress trees were up there in the Chick, and I kind of decided that I was going to spend my whole first day of Monday practice up there trying to just find an area to live in. Because tournaments that you do well in, it seems like you can kind of find a section of the river or section of the lake just to kind of camp out. And that's what I did. I started fishing some docks there in Chick. And one of the docks that I fished, I caught 2 on 1 cast in practice. Now, they were little, but they were keepers. And so I thought, well, hey, that's cool. There's some fish right here in this area. I don't know why they're here, but I kind of just turned that ghost around and got out of there. Caught some other random fish through that several 100-yard stretch of the bank there with docks and trees. And that kind of gave me confidence that may be my home for the tournament. And then I went further down. There was some current ripping around a point, and caught a 5-pounder there. And at that point, I just kind of took the hooks off of everything and, put heat shrink on my chatterbait and just kind of wasn't really trying to look at anything else because I'd already kind of seen what I needed. And that's just kind of how it went down. And then on day 2, I drove down to Grae's because I noticed on my tide chart on Lawrence that Grae's, the low tide was going to hit earlier. And so I could go there in the tournament and fish that low tide and then run back up to my primary area and Chick and catch that low tide. So I could kind of get 2 cycles in one day on that first half of the morning by doing that. Now that was a big run and a lot of fuel, but it worked out. I went to Grae's, caught a 3-pounder on day 1 and had 4 other little knotheads. And then I ran up to Chick and kind of culled those 4 little ones out and got a start.
You mentioned a couple key things there. First of all, like I said, I have limited tide experience. I don't know if you're a juggernaut at tides or not, but once I found that tide feature on the Lawrence where you like go click in and it like shows it in the time when it's going up and when it's going, that's like been an absolute lifesaver to me. Because
Absolutely.
did you note in practice like incoming tide or outgoing when you get a bite? Would you go back and look at the tide chart and then use it? Because it kind of changes based on where you are GPS positioning too, and shows everything. It's a phenomenal tool that whenever I fish tide, I've always been worried about it. That thing is awesome.
Yeah, it's a good tool to have, and I would partner that with a few different apps. One that's ties near me, and and I would make notes of when I would catch those, especially if it was a 2.5-pounder or more. I would mark a waypoint on the rants and just put, low incoming next to whatever waypoint number it might be. Or I might put, dead low or high outgoing. That way I could just have a visual on that waypoint of when it was I got bit and try to plan the next tournament day. On our off day, I got on, I did a screenshot of Google Earth of the whole entire river, and I pasted that picture into the Paint app on your computer, and I'd put the high tide in red and the low tide in blue and put that on several different places throughout the whole river system. That way you could kind of see it all at once. And that way you could say, okay, well, I can go to Grae's early, go to Chick at 10 a.m. and then if I wanted to, stop at the barge pit at the end of the day. If you're getting bid on a low incoming, if you're getting bid on a high tide, that schedule might look totally different. You might be starting closer to takeoff and working your way down. But I was kind of focused on the low incoming and the low outgoing. That was kind of the keys the first couple of days. Now, on days 3 and 4 of the tournament, I caught them off the main area on high outgoing. So who knows? I mean,
they just live there.
It's like those fish wake up and spin this wheel like, we're going to bite on low outgoing today. I mean, it's just, I don't know. We think we got a rhyme or reason, the strategy, but at the end of the day, I was just chunking and winding and trying to rotate as many of those spots and Chick as I could.
Okay, that's a great explanation, but I want to go back to this thing that you did. All right, walk me through the steps with the paint and okay, so you go. Are you cool with going over that? Because that intrigued me, Nick. That's something that I'm a big fan in taking care of the controllable variables that you can, and that's something that I'm pretty sure a lot of guys didn't do. So you go into Google Earth and screenshot it on your laptop.
Right.
And then you make it semi-transparent or not?
No. So my travel partner's Blake Smith, and he
Okay.
calls me the high-tech redneck.
If you don't want to like
'Cause
completely go into this, we can't. You already covered it.
No,
but
I mean,
okay. I don't want to give away.
I mean, I told Blake one night at the hotel, I said, man, I need a big map on the wall of like a strategy battle plan map. Like I could point at it with a stick and be like this general, you know?
We're gonna move here, and then as
Yeah.
the tide progresses, we're going to.
And I said, you know what? I don't have that, but I've got a computer with Google Earth.
Okay.
And so picture my computer screen. On far one end is Osborne Landing, and on the other end is Grae's, Grae's Creek. Yeah, so that's probably what, a 60 or 70 mile stretch of the river.
Yeah.
And so I would paste that whole entire picture into the Paint app, like where your kids go and make little pictures, And so I pasted that picture there, and then I put the word low in red, and I put the word high in blue, just as a visual reference. And then on several different locations and creeks and sections of the river, I'd have my app, and I would say, okay, well, the low in Grae's is going to be at 7 a.m. And the highs is going to be at 1 p.m. And I would put that in red and put that in blue. And I would do the same thing for Chick and the same thing for Sturgeon Point.
Okay,
and the
so
same
it gave you
thing,
just a visualization instead of just this hodgepodge of highs and lows, to where you could actually see an entire picture of what the ecosystem was doing.
Right, because for me, I'm a visual learner, and just looking at one column in the app of just one location, and then getting out of that and looking at another location, and getting out of that and looking at another location, I wanted to see it all at once.
Yeah,
I wanted to look at the river as a whole, and so I made that redneck tide map on the computer, and it just made it easier for me to understand, especially never being there before.
Okay, you said your home lake's Caddo?
Right.
Okay, and you fish Rayburn a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't fish Caddo a whole lot once I started chasing these tournaments. But,
but that's where you cut your teeth.
Yeah, that's where I learned to fish cypress trees.
Okay, and then Rayburn, that's got some cypress in it, and then you won the All-American on Cross.
Lots of cypress trees.
Doing crazy stuff with the square bill and deflection and cypress trees in the jungle. I'll never forget watching the coverage of that tournament going, holy cow, that's freaking the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then you come to the James, and that section, like, are all cypress trees created equal? Like, once you know how to fish cypress trees, can you look at or are cypress trees kind of regional? You know what I mean? Like, do they all do? How does that work? And you've won like $500,000 off cypress trees, Nick?
Yeah, they're regional. The trees up there at the James River, they're like more pear shaped. Like they start slender and they just slope off, and the base and the root system is as wide as this truck.
Yeah.
But a lot of our trees back home on Cross and Caddo, they're more just like, straight up and down.
Vertical.
And they're undercut, so where under the water is actually less tree.
Okay, so it basically looks like the top half of an hourglass.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so you can kind of look at a tree and know that, okay, this is one that I need to try to deflect off of, or this is one that if those Hayabusa TBL 930s even touch the side, they're going to get hung.
Oh, that was amazing.
So you can kind of read the tree.
Plug, Nick. That was so smooth.
You can kind of read the tree and kind of know where your line needs to be when that bait comes by there.
So how would you approach? So that stretch of the James you're fishing, there are some cypress trees that are like the size of the trunks are like the size of Volkswagen Bug. Like, they're massive.
Yes.
Would you approach it based on the tide, or would you fish as much as you could around the whole thing, pick them apart, or was there like a cast that you found that was primarily the most productive cast?
Yeah, I mean, we're about to get in real deep with this.
Yeah, that's what we do here.
Yeah, so like, if you got an outgoing tide, you want to be trolling into the tide, and you want to be throwing past the tree where your bait is moving natural with the outgoing current. But it's more to it than that. You need to get in position to where you have a visual of kind of where that fish should be and how he's positioned. The fish, a lot of times the fish are going to be broadside on the backside of the tree in the slack water, and you want the bait to come by him where it's going to just pop out into his face all of a sudden. Like, you don't want the fish to see the bait coming from a long ways. You want it to be like if you're walking in downtown and you're walking real close to a wall and you take a corner and boom, somebody's right there doing the same thing. You run into each other. That's kind of how you want to present that bait to that fish that's on that tree. If you're walking on the edge of the curve and you can kind of see around that corner, you're like, oh, somebody else is coming. Let me make sure I give them room and they don't surprise me, and I'm not going to bite that crankbait. So, and is it like that every single tree? No. But when you approach a tree, and especially if you think you're one bite away from winning, all that's playing in your mind of, okay, don't mess it up, Nick. Like, don't mess this tree up. Like, fish it right, So that's kind of the way I look at it.
That's a great visual. Because you did a number of stuff. I mean, you did like a little bit of feeding bite stuff, but you did a lot of reaction bite stuff. Crankbait, chatterbait, just give them that split second look. Do you think that allowed you to put some more quality fish in the boat that were maybe neutral, that other guys fish through by what you just described?
Yeah, probably so. I think, deflecting different crankbaits and getting a reaction, I think that you're going to catch some of those fish that might not would bite somebody flipping a creature bait or even frogging. I think based on the personality of the fish, they're all different. And did I probably pass up some fish because I wasn't flipping? Probably so. But I can chunk and wind and crank twice as many trees versus somebody else that's flipping all day.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just covering water, and finding the areas that, because you know how it is up there, you'll fish 4 miles of river and then you'll catch like 3 fish power pole down in one little area. Like, there's these little pods of fish. And my goal was just to try to find as many of those little hot areas as I could. And, and that's the deal. And if you get efficient at cranking and putting that bait where it needs to be, you can cover a lot of water quickly.
How many other guys were on that kind of quarter-mile stretch? Did you have to fight anybody, or were you surprised at the...
There were guys in there. Ty Al was fishing a section of trees that I was. He made the top 50 cut. He seemed to be chunking and winding maybe a bladed jig or a swim jig.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Mosley was fishing a lot of the docks that I was.
I wouldn't want to flip behind that guy. That guy's
man, he's
good.
He's
He's strong when it comes to flipping.
But he was flipping the outside edge of the docks, the face of the dock on low tide, and that's something I could never really get dialed in. And I'm pretty sure Brett Height, that's how he caught his bigger stringer on day 2, I think it was. He was fishing the same little stretch of docks that it went down on. Wow. And there was a handful of other guys, but if you go right up around the corner, that's where all the pad fishermen were.
Yep.
Up there around that, I think it's Colonial Marina and all that.
Yeah. There's an island out in front there.
Right. A lot of them guys were up there fishing the pads. But I tried to fish pads once I had my stringers on days 1 and 2 and 3, but I never could get dialed in on the pad bite. I think my timing was off, but hey, praise the Lord, it worked out anyway.
It's crazy to me how some anglers, based on how they're growing up, based on what your style is, I've been on like this kick of figuring out people's style and stuff, will look and go, Well, I'm going to stay away from the cypress. They all look the same. How do you determine it? And then there's a group of guys that look at the pads and go, well, that pad field looks, totally random. It's just interesting to me how you got guys that are all at the top level and some are drawn to vegetation and some are drawn to hardcover. It's just, I don't know why. It's just cool how that.
And I want to make this comment too. I wasn't totally upset that I never figured out the pad thing in practice or in days 1 or 2 of the tournament, because I saw that north wind coming for days 3 and 4. And I don't know how it is on James River, but I know back home in Caddo, Toledo, Rayburn, wherever you are, when that north wind starts blowing, then padfish get locked down. And so I was kind of glad that I didn't get wrapped up in pads, because I don't have a lot of confidence fishing pads once that north wind starts blowing. And I'd be curious to talk to, Dakota or some of them other guys that were committed to that, to see if they kind of had found that it had gotten tougher,
I need to get a pad expert on the show. I don't like them either. I look at it and I'm like, that's just a lot of lily pads there. Let's just randomly chuck around in it. I know there's differences.
A lot of
just like there is in everything else. Hey, I know I want to let you get back on the road. I really appreciate you stopping, but I want to go through some stats first before I let you go. We take a break and then get to Grae Buck. Obviously, the back-to-back wins, first or third time that's ever happened in the history of the tour. But going back to October 7th of last year, and I don't think a lot of people realize, you can look at like MLF or you could look at Bass, but when you start combining these things, like your finishes from October 7th through June of this year, you have a second on Lewis Smith in the Open, you won on Grand, a second this year on Ross Barnett in the Open, 18th in the Bassmaster Classic, 9th on the Pro Circuit on Pickwick, and then back-to-back wins, Guntersville and James River. You've done roughly $340,000 just in straight earnings, not including incentives or anything on that. That is just an absolutely insane stat line. And I think he got a call, which would freeze for you to be able to respond to that. But just an absolutely insane stat line that you've had over the past 8 months. And then the other thing that is absolutely insane is you fished everything but the Bassmaster Classic, BFLs, BFL Regionals, All-American, Toyota Series Championship, Pro Circuit Invitational, Pro Circuit, the Forest Wood Cup, the Bassmaster Opens, and the Bassmaster Classics. And you haven't just fished them, you've had success in them. You have a top 20 finish in every single one of those series. And I know we just lost Nick, so he's not able to hear his stat line, which is kind of sad, because I was hoping he'd be able to hear the stat line. I'm sure he'll jump back on here in a second. But his lowest finish out of all of those is in the Toyota Championship, which he's fished like 4 or 5 out of, is a 42nd place, which is absolutely insane. But he's won a couple BFLs, top 10s on everything else except the Classic, where he's only fished 1, and he finished 18th in that. Obviously rolling, and almost all this is since 2018. Then you can take it a step further, because I'm a stats guy. I've always been a stats guy. He's 10th in the Pro Circuit Angler of the Year right now, so he's going to qualify for most likely going to qualify for the championship, the MLF championship this year. But he's also second in the Bassmaster Central Opens because of his second place finish on Ross Barnett. Last 2 events being on the Red River and Sam Rayburn, places where Nick is exceptionally good at. So just a crazy stat line there for Nick, who I think his phone died there. So we'll just roll into a commercial break right from there and come back with Grae Buck. But big shout out. Congratulations. Awesome job for Nick Lebrun. Getting it done on the James River and Lake Guntersville. I need to have him back on for an entire show to talk some mental game, because I remember I fished around him at Grand in the Open a lot, and he won that event. He made the Bassmaster Classic, but he always just seems so cool, calm, and calculated every time I ran into him on the water. Very nice to fish around too. Good guy. So we're going to take our first break of the show. And when we come back, the man who finished 11th on the James River, having a heck of a year on the Pro Circuit and heading to a venue. Oh, he's going to come back right now too. I was just bragging about you and then was going to take it out to commercial break. It's all good though.
Yeah, man, my phone overheated, so
I knew something like that had to happen, but we're back anyway. I ran through all your stats list that I don't need to run through again, but it was basically just a litany of the last 5 years for you. I mean, I guess wrap things up. How would you describe the last 5 years? I mean, I went back and looked at your stats, and your first win ever was actually a tie. It was a tie in a BFL on Rayburn with Dickie Newberry, who has 11 BFL wins. I mean, the guy is an absolute legend, but that was in 2016. So, like, it's not like you've been winning major events for 15, 20 years. Like, dude, like the last 5 to 7 years, and particularly the last 2 years, absolutely insane, dude.
It's been wild, man. I really can't. The last year, especially, I really can't even describe it. The first thing I got to say is I just got to give all glory to Jesus Christ. I mean, there was a time where I thought my life was over, but he wasn't done with me. And, he's given me this career to fish and win tournaments every once in a while. And, man, I'm just along for the ride. An old mentor of mine told me one time that whenever you're at the top, there's only one place to go, and that's down, so you just got to keep the momentum going and just savor it and enjoy it while it's here. And we're not going to let off the gas. And I'm excited to see how the rest of this year plays out because we still got a lot of fishing left. I'm excited about that.
Well said, Nick. I'll let you get back on the road. Thank you for taking time to pull over and jump on BTL.
Yeah, man. Thanks for all that you do, and thanks for having me.
All right, see you. All right, there we go. Like I said, probably the least smoothest thing that's happened to Nick Lebrun in the last 8 months. What's the ending of that interview? But we're going to take a break, come back with another guy who's experienced what it's like to fish in the Bassmaster Classic, and that is Grae Buck heading to Lake Oneida, where I think anything less than a final day appearance would be a disappointment for him in the upcoming Northern Open. It's BTL on a Tuesday, the 21st of June. We'll be back after this.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS, now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS9 today for $9.99, and we'll throw in a C-Map reveal chart, our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and C-Map reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
We're just ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Get in order.
Once again, Drew Cook is in the driver's seat.
When you're catching fish for a living, you can't let a little cold, rain, heat, humidity, or anything else get in the way of a payday. I wear APCO. Any fish, any water.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Welcome back, BTL, on a Tuesday. Now it's time to go to the man who's in really good position in the Pro Circuit Angler of the Year standings. Led the James River event for the first 2 days. Still came out of there with a really solid 11th place finish and is headed to the Bassmaster Open in a couple weeks on Lake Oneida as, I'm going to say it, the heavy favorite. It's none other than Grae Buck. What's up,
going
Grae?
on, Matt?
You're comfortable with that being the heavy favorite going into a tournament, right?
Yeah, that's fine. It's a good thing.
You told me, I'm going to say off the record, you say, man, I'd be disappointed if I didn't really have a strong event here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, no, that place has always been good to me. It's where I actually went and learned how to smallmouth fish. It was when I was 16, I joined the local club and started fishing as a co-angler. And everybody was always excited when we were going to Oneida. We'd go Father's Day weekend every year, and we'd go up there and just catch a pile of fish. So that's kind of what got me hooked on smallmouth fishing. And then it's whatever, a little under 4 hours from my house. So when we would have a free weekend, my wife and I would just go up there. We'd go camping. We'd go fish there. So I spent a lot of time on the lake. And that was, honestly, before I figured out Lake Ontario was another hour past there and had giants in it. So I haven't spent as much time there.
You got sidetracked.
Yeah, I haven't spent a whole lot of time there in the past few years. I won in 19. I think 2020, I spent a week there with Kirk Dove's youth camp there.
Yep.
And I haven't been since. So I'm actually going to go up tomorrow for 2 days and just kind of get a little lay of the land, see how stuff's growing and what's changed. And then I'll be back up for, I guess, 4 days of practice right before we get started.
Yeah, we can go celebrate 4th of July on the water with all the pleasure boaters.
Could be fireworks.
Yeah. How far are you from the James River then? Because you're in that kind of neck of the woods.
It is. So I'm about 5 hours if you didn't have to drive past Philadelphia, Baltimore, D.C., and Fredericksburg.
You have to go through all of those to get from your house to the James River?
It's brutal. It usually
that sounds
takes
like a nightmare.
I don't ever go. I've been there 3 times in my life. I also passed the Chesapeake Bay and the Potomac on the way down there. So I'm very familiar with tidal water, but the James, it's such a commitment to get down there, and you have to be willing to sit on 95 for, usually it takes you extra 2 hours. If I can get there in less than 7, I'm happy.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah. So there's better places to go. If I'm driving 7 hours, I'm going to the St. Lawrence or Champlain or somewhere that's got some big smallmouth in it.
You know, there's no secret that the James has a big population of 3 to 8, 9 pound bass, but it's also no secret that the later it gets into the summer, the harder it is to target those fish, and they're kind of like ghosts in certain areas. You come out in this tournament, and I mean, just guns blazing, like pop 21 plus and 15 plus to lead the event after 2 days. Did you see that coming on day one? Did you know that it was going to go down?
Honestly, I didn't. I had found a couple areas. I had 3 areas that had a lot of fish in them. And that's how I usually fish a tidal fishery is I go into an area, I want to find those little tide windows when they're biting, know what's going on. And once I have that, you get those couple bites, you leave it. You're not going to sit there and practice. Like I would catch 1 or 2, then I cover my hook up, shake a bunch of off. And you want to be in an area that has a lot of fish just because, like you said, there's a number of 3 to 8, 9 pounders out there that you can have that shot of getting one of those, and it jumps you way up there. Mm-hmm. And when I pulled into my first area on day 1, the tide was almost perfect. Like it needed like a half hour to get out to get that last like hour and a half of outgoing. And as soon as that happened, I went into whacking on them. And probably the first 2 hours of the morning, I had 15, 16 pounds. And then I started running around because I was going to look for that big bite. And I was fortunate that I pulled up on the right duck blind and flipped in there, and I caught a 6.6, and then I did a circle around it one more time, and I caught another 4, and I had 21 pounds by 11:30 that day.
Wow. Did you mess with you mess with the cypress too, or were you primarily focusing on the duck blinds? I'm assuming at the mouth of the creeks that as the tide would come out would pull the fish out to those duck blinds in shallow water on the flats?
Yeah, that was more so what I was looking at. The spot that I started in the morning, that was actually just like a ditch. There was a big coontail flat behind it, and those fish were living on the flat at high tide, but they were really hard to catch because it was massive. And then once that tide pulled out, it would suck them to the ditch. And I fished stuff like that on the Potomac all the time, and it felt very familiar. And I knew where they were going to position. I kind of had a couple of like turns in the current in the creek channel and the ditch there that they were very predictable once you got the tide that was low enough.
So it sounds like tide was just absolutely critical to your bite.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what got me on day 3 there.
What
where
I'm
I
seeing,
struggled.
because what is it, an hour and a half later each day?
It's like 45 minutes to an hour each day later.
Okay.
It's closer to an hour on the James River. And so if I remember correctly, I think it was 9:30 was low on day 1, 10:30 day 2, and then 11:30 on day 3. Okay. So with it, we launched at 6:30. It was taking me 45 minutes or so to get down there.
Yeah.
So
you're like, I got 3 hours before they start biting. Anything's a bonus.
It was. And I was very torn that last day because I saw how that bite window was just pushing back. And I really didn't want to start there on day 3. And I was talking to Chris Jones in the morning doing like the leading interview or whatever it was. And I was like, I don't want to start there, but I couldn't live with myself if I didn't start there, and I couldn't get on it because there were some local derbies going on Saturday. And like, can you imagine if I would have not gone to the 2 places I jacked them on the first 2 days to be leading a tournament, and then you don't make the cut? Like, I can live with not making the cut doing what I did, because I caught more fish that 3rd day than I did either of the first 2 days. It was, the numbers were up. I was actually catching them on a higher tide once I picked up that Z-Man bang stick and it started floating that through the current seams. Like, I felt like I was out there trout fishing out west, where I'm just kind of working that bait real slow in the current, and all of a sudden I just go pop, and you set the hook on them and you had them. It's just, they shrunk up on me. That's really all it came down to.
And that was just all like there. So, okay, here's my question on this. You're a tide guy. You understand how tides work. You're talking about 2 kind of main areas that this kind of went down in for you. Every time there's a tide cycle, okay, let's take that duck blind, for instance. You went around it, you caught a 6 and a 4. Tide goes out, tide comes back in, tide goes out. Are fresh fish moving out to use that? Or, in your opinion, are the same fish that are not on that duck blind at high tide or not, or whenever the tide is wrong, are those fish going right back to that duck blind when the tide's right? Or are there new fish that are constantly getting flushed into that area?
Yeah, there's new fish. With that tide, that's what's the best thing about it. Usually you can't like fish a hole out because that tide cycle just keeps bringing new bait in there, and it brings new bass. And they're sitting on those areas because it's the best spot out there to either ambush a prey, or you got the current ripping past the duck blind, you can get in that current break behind it. The most dominant fish are going to pull up there, and that's probably why the first day I caught 2 big ones off of it. The second day I went there and I caught one that was pushing 3 pounds on it, and the 3rd day I went there and the wind was blowing into it like it had like a foot and a half chop on it. Yeah, it just wasn't set up right, so that's why I kind of bailed on that deal.
Is that why you also see guys who are really good at tides historically do really well on tidal fisheries? Because once you have some areas that you know are proven and produce, you can run them, you know, at the specific time when it's good, and there's always fresh fish that are moving in there.
Yeah, no, that makes a big difference. It's just kind of knowing how it sets up. If you have those couple little hard cover spots that are good, it's hard to beat them year after year.
Did you spend all your time in the Chick? I don't think you.
Except for the last day I ran up and fished one of the smaller creeks up the James. I actually found that in practice, and I was debating starting day 1 there, which thankfully I didn't. But it had a lot of fish in it. They were just that smaller quality. They were like 2 to like 3.5. And I went there the last day and I caught probably 15, 20 fish in the last 2 hours of the day. And I was calling up 1/10 of a pound at a time to get from 8 pounds up to 9 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think a wacky rig works so good on tidal fisheries? It seems like that's kind of like a universal thing that those fish like to eat regardless of where it is.
Yeah, it's just so natural when you can float that through those areas in that current. it just looks like a little perch, a little shad, or whatever you're trying to mimic going by there. And the first day I caught most of mine actually on a swim jig, and the water was dirtier. And as that water progressively, the tide cycles would keep coming through and out, it'd go through that coontail, and it was just like a big filter back there, and it cleaned that water up a lot. And that's when I had to pick up that, I was actually Nico rigging that bang stick, just a little bit of weight in there just to try to get it down, just a hair, because it was only 3 to 5 foot on that little edge that I was fishing. But that second day when I floated it by there for, like, early in the morning when that tide was still a little higher than I wanted it to be, I hooked that 590 on it, and that thing took me for a ride. It was pretty cool.
Surprised at how much weight it took to contend on this, considering that it was the middle of June?
No, we're still on that time of year where it's not quite that summer, like, just going to be terrible and hard fishing. Like, when we get to the Chesapeake there for that Bass Open in September, you better be ready to grind, because if you get 5 bites in a day, you're going to be a hero out there.
That one's gonna stink. Not be good, huh?
No, it's a shame. It's all the tidal fisheries though. There, Potomac, the James. Once you get to August, like mid to late August through early October, when it starts to get cold again, they get so stingy, and a lot of that's the salt
Where do they
lines
go?
pushing up.
Are they there?
Yeah.
Do they suspend in areas where they can actually have good water quality? That like little like where do those fish go? Because I mean, dude, you can go out there and catch it. The fish live there. It's not like they vacate the river and the system.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of them still live there. It's just they kind of get that lockjaw when that salt line pushes up from the summer. If you don't get a lot of rain, it really just kind of locks them down, and they don't feed as much, and they get skinnier. You'll notice that, like the weights that drops on that, even when you're catching a fish during the spring that's big pre-spawn, and then they kind of get that early summer weight when they're post-spawn, and they'll just keep getting skinnier and skinnier until October hits and that cold water comes, and then they feed up again. You'll start catching giant ones again. You'll get from catching a 15-pound bag that's winning on the Chesapeake to the fall, and it's taking 23, 24 pounds again.
So are there no like things that you can use to like test the salinity of the water to be like, hey, this is like salty, let's move?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I don't.
Is that not a thing? I'm just spitballing here, but like, I mean, like you've got your hydrowave and your color selector and all this. Can you not like drop something down and be like, hey, let's find somewhere less salty to where maybe they're a little bit more agreeable mood?
Yeah, wasn't Ken Cook doing something like that back in the day on the Chesapeake when he won the Classic there, I think, or he came in second, or
was he doing something like that?
I feel like he was. Unless it was like a pH meter or something. It was something scientific he was doing that I recall. But
hold on, I'm looking this up.
What was that, 92 maybe? But no, yeah.
Hold on, I gotta find this. What would I even look up? Ken Cook salty? No, that one.
Something on the Chesapeake. It was on the Chesapeake Bay. I remember that.
Did he win?
He either won or he was right there.
Okay, yeah, in 1991.
91, okay. I was a year off. I was 2 years old then.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to research that.
Yeah, no. Let me know.
He was a really good dude. I actually got to spend some time in the boat with Ken Cook when I first started working at Bass Zone, and got to go out to one of his private little lake. They're not private; it's public, but it's a little bitty lake, and got to fish with him a couple times before he passed. He's a really good dude.
That's cool. I've read a bunch of stuff about him just because he was associated with like the fisheries deal, and in college I was an environmental science major, so it all interested me. I liked all that. So
yeah,
was cool.
I was doing some stuff with Berkeley, and they'd come out. Remember, they came out with those worms that had tungsten powder in them.
I don't remember Berkeley doing that. I remember the true tungsten.
No. Berkeley had a worm that had think of it like a Nico worm, except like the nose of it had tungsten powder in it. So it was like, hey, you don't have to put a Nico weight or anything in it. The problem was it didn't age very well. Like it would eat through the worm there, but it was a really interesting concept.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
But so I mean, it sucks to bring up, but you finish 11th and they take the top 10. What are your thoughts on this zeroing the weight? Because you can look at it as like, man, I was kind of out of it after that, but you really were like 5-6 ounces from being tied for first going into the last day after sacking a 21-pound bag. You think it would have been a struggle too because that tide would have been even a further hour out, or does that zeroing of the weights allow you to just free roll it on the final day?
Yeah, no, I probably wouldn't even fish that spot until like 1 o'clock on the final day. And that's what I wanted to do on day 3. And I wish I would have, looking back on it, hindsight's 2020. But I knew going into that final day, if I made it, I wasn't starting there. It was going to be high tide. It wasn't going to be any good. It's just, those fish would have been roaming throughout that whole area. And you never would have, you might have picked 1 or 2 off, but it wasn't going to be the way to catch 5 of them. And I probably would have just picked an area. I had one up to the very top of the Chick that was better on high tide. And then I had some other creeks that would have been lower earlier. And I could have started in there and tried to catch a decent limit and then ran down there.
You a fan of the zeroing of the weights as diplomatically as you can respond to that? I mean, we've had guys on here who are just like, hell no.
Yeah, no. It played into my favorite, the Harris chain, when I slid in at 9th place. So I was pumped about it then.
You made a few more dollars by finishing up at 7th.
Yeah, no, but I go back and forth. It does make for good TV that final day. Like, everybody's in it. It's exciting. I don't like how it downplays what you did earlier in the tournament. I think you should be rewarded for that more than boat position going out the final day. But it is what it is. We all play under the same rules, so you got to kind of make the best of it and try to catch them either way.
Reaching kind of the time of the year where you kind of start licking your chops too, and you're in a really good position for a strong finish. What makes a good northern angler? There's a whole group of you guys that it's just, hey, you're going to catch them when you go to these venues. It doesn't, there's 8 or 10 lakes up there, the small. What makes a good northern angler, if you could break it down into 3 things that you all do very similarly?
1, we're all very good with a spinning rod. 2, I would say, is we put a lot of time in. I went up to Champlain 3 weeks ago, just idling, looking with my Lowrance and just side scanning everything. I want to know where every rock, every boulder is. I want to know where there's going to be grass growing on top of rock beds and all that sort of stuff. And that makes the biggest difference. And if you can put that time in and really find all those little sweet spots, it's so valuable up there because a boulder's not going to ever move on you. It's not like when you go to Toho and you're fishing a grass line and you come back the next year and there's an entire flat that has 0 grass on it anymore. So I think as you keep putting that time in, you get building like your waypoints and expanding on where those fish are living, you could just keep getting dialed in. You run those higher percentage areas. And that's why you see like the St. Lawrence and Champlain and all those places that we go year after year, even the guys from down south, the weights keep getting better and better. It's harder and harder to make that 50 cut with a, whatever, it could be a 17-pound bag, 20-pound bag, whatever it is averaging, because everybody has more of those little sweet areas.
All right, you good to stick around for one more segment?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, when we come back, I want you to, if you're going to build a northern box for a guy from Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, who's going up north, maybe on vacation for a couple weeks, maybe decided to sign up for a northern division or something, just to where they can be comfortable and confident with a handful of baits and a handful of setups to go tangle with smallies or large. You can catch a lot of largemouth up north on spinning rods too. So that's what we'll discuss when we come back, taking our final break here, BTL on a Tuesday with Pro Circuit angler Grae Buck.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy touch, soft feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at denalirods.com. Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. Two sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
Welcome back to BTL Talking with MLF Pro Circuit Angler, Northern Fishing aficionado. You fished for Penn State, right?
I did.
With your wife, who was then your girlfriend.
Yep. Yeah, we actually met in high school, and then when we went up to Penn State, she had never fished before she met me. But
oh, really? I thought it was like a deal where it was like, try to get with the fishing chick, and then.
No. The first time she ever came over to my house, I didn't know what to do with a girl at the time, and I was like, let's go fish in my pond. I have a picture of her holding this big channel cat. You used to throw bread out there and they'd come up and eat off the surface. She's freaked out. It's hilarious.
Oh, so you knew, you like set it up to like you guaranteed that it was going to be she was going to catch something.
Oh yeah, you go in that
your
pond.
First date was channel cat fishing in a pond?
We caught bass. We got that. I got a little
multi-species fishing in the pond.
Yeah, no, I was not. I had no idea what you're supposed to take a girl out and do. I should have taken her to the movies or something like that. But
no, it was great. It worked out.
Yeah,
but then you guys team fished at Penn State.
We did, and we came in second and was the best tournament I had in any of those college tournaments up at Champlain. And I think she weighed in 2 of the 3 we caught that day, or 2 of the 5 we caught that day. So she can do it. She's
Did she ever get on your case? Because I'll like fish with my girlfriend in the tournament, and she's like really good about like she knows like because she barrel races. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna hook you up with a wacky worm or something like that she can, or net. She loves a Ned rig. But like if it's getting later in the day in a jackpot, she's like, why'd we pick here? Why not over there? Like how come we haven't won one of these things yet? Why am I not throwing a Ned rig? We need a limit. Was there any, or is there you guys got along famously every day.
We've been pretty good. She usually will take the back seat to me when we're not really catching them. Then she'll maybe start throwing these little jabs at me here and there. But
Just subtle hints.
Yeah, that's usually more so when we're fun fishing and we're kind of like sticking with like one technique, I'm trying to either dial it in or figure out what's going on. And there's an area we've caught them in the past that it might be a spring spot. And she's like, "Why aren't we over there?" Even though it's a 90 out and the fish aren't up in 2 foot of water anymore. And but it's funny. No, I have a good time. We spend a lot of time up on Lake Ontario fishing. She loves catching those big smallmouth.
How many days a year do you spend up there?
I usually get 3 like fun trips where we'll do a long weekend up there a year. And then how many tournaments I get. If I can get one, I think this year I only have 1 up there for that. Hopefully I'm making that tidal championship and
but
get the fish.
Yeah, you should be in pretty good shape there.
Yeah.
With, what do you have? Champlain left, and then the title's on the St. Lawrence.
Correct.
And you're in 14th.
Yeah, so as long as I don't completely screw that up, I should be in good shape. I'm looking forward to it. Champlain is one of those places I've always done decent there, but it's never been easy. Like last year, I think I came in, it was a top 20. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
I had 18 pounds the first day. I didn't have a fish until 11:30 on Champlain. Like I was spun out. My head
tough
was
to do, isn't it?
It's really, you don't even know. Like, and I kind of bailed on my smallmouth and went largemouth fishing. I caught 18 pounds. I'm like, well, apparently I was fishing for the wrong color this week and had to make some different approaches to it. But I kind of
Fishing's
found
your only jam, right? Like you don't, like you said, like so you can when it is season and they are smallmouth fishing and there's no tournaments, like you can take off and go spend some days learning and getting better and having fun.
Yeah, I get to do a little bit of that. It's still not that close. The problem is like Oneida's 4 hours is like the closest one, and then
5 hours from St. Lawrence. That's close, dude. 5 hours. I'm like,
but you're not
21.
day tripping it. You're not day tripping.
You can day trip that if you want to. Like if you get up at 3 a.m. on a Friday morning, you're fishing for 6 pound smallmouth by noon.
Yeah. No, all right, that's fair.
I'm fishing for them by noon the next day. If I drive straight through and spend $1,000.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, you do have a lot of experience up there. I know there's a lot of people who go up north to fun fish, to smallmouth fish, or have tournaments, and everything that you watch seems like super easy. Like, oh, you just drop it down, you catch it. But you're kind of an aficionado up there. What would you say the must-haves are, not for a specific lake, but just in general, the smallmouth northern region, something that you can take that will always put them in the boat with confidence?
Number one thing is a drop shot. That you can't go up north and not have a drop shot. So I was running around during the break here. I grabbed a bunch of stuff.
That. That's why I was hoping you were grabbing stuff.
Yeah. So this little guy right here, the Z-Man, there we go. That trick shot, it's a 3.5 inch bait. And this one, let's see right
it's the opposite of whichever way. It's like when you first start backing up a trailer when you're trying to show a bait in the camera. There you go.
Yep. So we got that guy. And it's a color called Goby Bryant. It looks just like those gobies up north. And it's got like a little bit of a green pumpkin top to it. It's got a little bit of purple and copper in there, which the smallies love. I'm taking a little number 2 drop shot hook. This is the Hayabusa. It's a DSR 132. It's an HD version. So it's a heavier duty wire, but it's still thin little gauge on it. And that's really important. You want to nose hook this guy. When you come through the nose, bring it right out the front. Just like that. You don't want to go through the top of this bait. Because if you go through the top of the bait, so if you went straight through, nose hooking and got that like a whole lot of bite in it, which is good for not ripping a bait off. This Elastec doesn't come off, but it spins as you're reeling it in. So your line braid doesn't really have a whole lot of memory, but it'll still grab some of that. So if you go right through there, it folds up better and you won't get as much line twist. So that's important. Make sure you have some good tungsten weights to drop shot with. I use a 1/2 ounce. This one's an Angler tungsten one.
You use a cylindrical, not the teardrop.
Yeah, it comes through the rock better. That's the main thing you're looking for up there. This smallmouth relate to rock 90% of the time. There's some areas they'll get on sand flats and like that, but most of the fish you're going to be looking in that 15 to 25 range. And you find those basically just idling around. I use my side scan with my Lowrance there. But you want to have, so cylindrical, okay. I want this about usually I'll do, I don't know if you can see this, but 16 or 12 to 16 inches off the bottom, depending on how deep the fish are, how much current's in the area. The more current, the longer I want the leader. That way, when I'm dragging it across an area, because there's usually a lot of current or wind or however you're moving around, it keeps that bait a little bit further off the bottom. So if you kept it real short, your weight will be here and your line would be kind of over to the side. So it's actually not a foot off the bottom. It's only 6 inches.
I got you.
So you want to make sure you get that bait in front of their face, because they're super curious. Even if they don't need it, they come look at it. Have you ever played with an AquaView before either?
Very little. I know. Okay, I'll just say this. I know all the northern guys use AquaViews, and if they're not overtly sponsored by AquaView, they refuse to mention it, and that's how they practice instead of fish. Is that a fair statement?
100% fair. And when you drop that AquaView down there, it's a camera that's probably 6 inches long or so, and you put it on the bottom and you start looking, and if it's an area, even if you didn't see them as you idle over, those smallmouth are so curious, they'll swim over and they want to look in it. They're checking it out. I've been on the St. Lawrence River where I'm dragging along a shoal with dropping that down there, and all of a sudden you see one, and then there's two, and all of a sudden you have like 12 of them following this thing as you're drifting in the current at 4 miles an hour. And it really shows you how many fish are down there. It'll absolutely drive you crazy because those fish sometimes won't eat. But they're there and they want to see what is down there that's not normal. And it's just different. So same thing with that drop shot is get that up off the bottom, make it so they notice it, really have to come check it out.
Okay, that's a good tip.
But yeah.
So drop shot everywhere.
Drop shot everywhere. Ned rig is the next one. You can use a heavier one like this guy. This is that Ned Locks Z-Man makes. It's a 1/5 ounce. They make even a bigger one too. If I'm trying to get it on the bottom and fish deep, that's what I'm going with. And then when I'm going to fish shallower, or those flats, Hayabusa makes one. I've caught a lot of fish on this guy here. It's that Hayabusa Brush Easy, and it's a lighter head. And it's got these little monofilament guards. So this is a different sort of technique than throwing this one. This I'm throwing down there. It's going to hit the bottom. It's going to be down there. I'm kind of dragging it along the rock.
Goby dragging current related thing. That's more of a game fish pitching shallow water. I know what that's for.
I'm casting this out there. I'm going to let it glide down
on camera.
I've won so much money on this sucker, especially at Oneida. Like everybody has to have that. And Champlain and that perfect perch right there.
Yeah, that's kind of a hard color to find at times.
Is it? Well, I got a whole wall full of it.
Yeah, look at you're sponsored by Z-Man. You should.
But no, those two are like my go-tos when I'm slowing down fishing in an area. And then when I'm trying to find those smallmouth, if it's a shallower deal, I'm going to start running around. I'll throw just a diesel minnow. It's a 4-inch bait. Or you can take a rattle trap and just cover water on those shallow flats that are usually that 10 foot or less. And you're trying to find those groups of fish that are up shallow, because it'll be a sand flat and there might be a piece of grass here. There's like a little patch of it that'll hold. It could be 5-10 fish, but you won't ever know they're there unless you cover 3 miles of just a whole area. And
so if you're going up north on a lake that you're not super familiar with, you're picking up to start. You're going to pick up a trap, which is a really underrated smallmouth bait. I've learned.
Oh, yeah. No, you won't have a bait that gets hit harder than a trap by a smallmouth. They about rip the rod out of your hands.
And we've seen what the chatterbait can do on the St. Lawrence River too, which is a surprise. But I guess it's kind of the same theory. You've got noise, curiosity, fast moving.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I like the chatterbait because you can catch largemouth a lot on that too. Mm-hmm. You get a kind of a mixed bag with that.
But that little swim bait on the jig head, that's a year-round deal. That will that always tell you when there's fish in the area? Or is there a time they will ever get off of that little swim bait?
No. The only time they get off that is when it becomes like November or December when it gets cold and they go out real deep.
So you take those, you search, and then you drop and Ned.
Yep, exactly. Once I know those areas that they're in, I'm going to take my drop shot, my Ned rig, and I'm going to work through there and pick them all off. Because there's times you can catch every single one of them that's on a flat.
We won't go super in depth in this, but one quality length and action of spinning rod. If you're just going to say, hey, I'm going to spend $250, I think that's fair. $250, $300 on a good spinning rod combo to take up there that'll probably sit in my garage while I Carolina rig in South Texas for the next 3 months after this trip.
So if I'm doing one for that, how about $320?
Yeah, that's fine.
I have
that's
it here.
$150 rod and reel. We're with the way the economy is. That's a steal.
Yeah, no, it's a 721 hex. It's the favorite rods. It's what I use for everything. I use it for a wacky rig. You can drop shot with it. I throw the tube, the Ned rig. You can throw a drop shot on.
Just lost Grae too. We're just having a heck of a time today with the live stream features. I think he'll be back on here in a second. The black screen typically means that he had a call and that he'll be back on. But we'll take. I got one more commercial that I got to run. We'll take one more. Well, no, we won't. We'll go right back to Grae. You there?
Yeah, Brian Schmidt had to call and wreck it.
Oh, you throw out the Brian Schmidt name. That's okay. We're just getting all of the audio, video, StreamYard glitches out of the way in one show. We've had like 6 flawless months of it, so I'll go back through it.
Yeah,
but it's all good. So a 721. I'm assuming that's a 77-foot 2-inch rod.
Correct. It's a medium heavy, but it's got a lot of backbone to it. But it's got that tip that you need to make those long casts with all those baits, and it's super sensitive. So you're gonna be dragging it along. You want to feel every single rock that's down there, especially when you're on the bottom. So and I like to have a little bit heavier rod, especially when I'm up north fishing for those big smallmouth. Because if you're using a medium or medium light, like a lot of guys like to come up here and think you're smallmouth fishing. Those things are so mean and they're so strong. Yeah, they'll just eat you alive. I want to be in charge of those fish, even when I got a hold of them with that rod. Like, you can't let them get away from you. So it's definitely worth having a little bit heavier action if you're in those areas that got the 4 to 6 pounders.
2,500 or 3,000 reel. You a small reel guy or a big spool?
I use the 2,500. That's what Favorite has, so that's the one I usually go with. I've used the 3,000 too, but they're very similar, the sizes of the two. I just make sure you have a full spool of your Seaguar line. Like, you want that braid all the way to the top of it. That way, when you're making those turns, it's picking up everything you can, because when they pick it up, they're running. They're taking it away. Because usually they got buddies down there. They're trying to get that bait from them. So it's kind of a competitive thing, and you got to make sure you get a good hook in them, catch up to them, and can put them in the boat because of that.
You could really fish all week with buying 2 spools of line, right?
Mm-hmm.
A spool of braid and a spool of leader.
Yep. Yeah, I put 15-pound Seaguar Smackdown. I like the flash green, so it's super bright. And then I usually 8-pound Tatsu is the leader line. Sometimes you go to 10, depending on the zebra mussel situation. If it's real flat out, I'll go down to 6. But if you have between 6 and 10, you're good to go.
You're set.
Yep.
I'll ask you, I'll badger you for one more question. Have you ever seen a time up north when the smallmouth will not eat either a Ned rig or a drop shot? Is there ever a time where they get off of those baits, or even if there's a crazy good burning a spinner bait, spy bait, jerk bait, everything, can you always 100% of the time get bit if you're around fish on a Ned and drop shot?
100%.
And compete.
Yeah, absolutely. If I could only have one thing up there, I'm taking the drop shot. That's my go-to. You can catch them from ice out to when the ice comes back in. It doesn't matter if you're catching them in 2 foot or 40 foot. They'll eat that everywhere.
That's fantastic. No, I'm not trying. People are saying, "Oh, I'm trying to mine you for information on Oneida." We already talked about this. I know what I'm going to do at Oneida. I got my 8 spinning rods ready. They're all going to have drop shots on them. If I catch them at Oneida, it's going to be on a drop shot. End of discussion. So that game plan is already side sealed. It could be 150th. It could be a 5th. Who knows? But I've already got that game plan for because what did Grae just say? You always catch them on a drop shot.
Oh, it's the best molly bait there is out there, or set up.
Good stuff. Anything else you got?
No, the only thing this weekend I got my youth fishing tournament coming up. I do a little derby each year, and it's just at a little lake that I grew up fishing. We do it off the bank, so It's a lot of fun. I take you over real quick. I'll show you. I got a whole pile of prizes for them. So I work with a company called Lebrun. You can see that they sent me a couple grills, little portable grills to give out.
You've got a grill company?
Yeah, they do everything. They do a lot of camping stuff. So they got coolers. They aren't even a sponsor, but I met the guys from Flambeau, and they always help me out. They send
phenomenal
24 tackle boxes. So the first 24 kids that catch any fish in the derby, that we bring them up, we just measure them. They get a little prize. Hayabusa sent a box full of hooks for them, some stickers. We got more tackle boxes. Seagar hooked them all up with 10-pound. It's the new fluorocarbon they got, that Basex. It's a kind of their lower end model, but it's really good stuff still. So I got one of those for everybody. We got a goodie bag for them. I don't know what else we got here. We got a bag full of Rely on the lithium battery company. They sent T-shirts for everybody and little booklets, and I got a bunch of favorite rods to hand out. So it's going to be a good time. I always enjoy doing this, and it's something to do that's local and gets the kids out there fishing.
Is it too late to sign up? Like where, when, details, what's going on?
It is too late at this point. I cap it at 55 kids just because there's always so much bank space there. It's like a 30-acre lake.
You don't want to end up in a Kentucky Lake scenario during the kids derby.
Yeah, no. So it's fun. Like we have buckets. I bring like 5-gallon buckets for everybody. You have to fill it up with water. Bring your fish as soon as you catch it, and then we measure it, we write it down, and then they go back out there and start fishing again. So it's just a good time. This is going to be the third year we've done it. I do prizes usually I do the biggest 2 bass and then the 2 biggest other fish. It can be catfish, carp, bluegill, whatever it ends up being.
Okay. Clay wants you to show the grill again. He said he's in the market for a good beach grill and was wondering if that might
so this one,
a good beach grill.
It's let me get it on the boat here.
You're an organized dude too. Like you weren't planning on showing any of this stuff. Everything's like hung up. There's no piles. The walls are clean. Like you're way more organized than me.
I got some piles just on the ground that I need to put away. But this is the Leopard. It's an Odyssey portable grill. It's electric here, so it might not be the best one for the beach unless you have like a portable. There we go. I don't know if this is working or not. There we go.
Yeah, you're good.
But then they got a little spot. You can put a little charcoal container in it too, so you can get a little bit of smoke in there, flavor. But it's a cool little deal. I'm excited to get them. I just got it the other day. I've been looking at it for a while on their website, and I finally asked them to send a couple things, and that's what they suggested. I was like, "Ooh, send an extra one. I need one of them."
Phenomenal. I just got one of the. I didn't just get it. I got it last fall. One of the griddles, the Pit Boss griddles, that you take the little camping cartridge of propane and screw into it, and then you get like the whole griddle top. Life changer.
Yeah, that's great for the road, I bet.
It is, because you can get a good sear on your steaks. You can do breakfast on it, and then you just screw it in, and you just got like a little. So then I'm excited for Oneida because I'll have the travel Traeger, and then the griddle on top of it. So I'll be able to have both of them going.
Oh, I'm coming over for dinner.
No, you're more than welcome. I think it's me, Brad. You know Brad?
Yeah.
Brad Hallman, Andrew Upshaw. You know Andrew.
Yep.
Didn't you guys battle it out on the...
Oh, yeah. I tried running them down.
Yeah, you guys battled it out at Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
In the Nedfest, 2019 Nedfest.
Yeah, that's when I first found that Hayabusa Brush Easy, how good that thing was. You would have probably won that tournament if you were in it.
No, I think you're a better Ned. I think you're a better Ned guy than me.
I don't know about that.
I'm more the Nico Wacky. It's like it would be Nico Wacky on docks would be my strongest, I think. You seem to have that dialed in. You get natural rock and a Ned rig, I'm not betting against you or Matt Becker or Andrew Upshaw.
Sure.
And then I think John Sokup.
Oh, good deal.
Rooming with us, and we've got a house like right on the lake and stuff. So by all means, come on over.
I'll bring Schmidt over. That's who I'm staying with up there. So.
Oh well, Schmitty and Hallman they're like BFFs.
Yeah, we'll have to meet up. That'll be cool.
Absolutely. All right. Buy the adapter. Yeah, I need to buy the adapter for the full size propane. All my homeowner friends are like, "Hey, you need to like run a propane line, and then you can do that." And I'm like, "Man, dude, like I'm just trying to put something on the walls right now in the new house. I found like a picture of a dock with water on it, and I'm like, yes, works for me.
Well, that's good. How about
right,
one
dude.
last thing? How about
Yeah.
did you watch the hockey game last night?
Okay, so here's the deal. It gets like dark at like 9, and I've got a nasty fence row with some bushes, and I was out weed whacking until like 9, so I watched the highlights of it. But I didn't actually watch the game, but I was glad. I did not want it to be a sweep in the finals.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
I mean, any chance you can get for a Game 7 in a Stanley Cup Finals. But the Avs are looking good. Here's my thing. I'm still not over the Nazem Kadri running Binnington in round 2 against the Blues. So I just don't, and I know he's out because of the thumb thing, but I don't want that satisfaction as a Blues fan, a proud Blues fan, to watch them raise a Stanley Cup after they ran Binnington, and clearly the Blues would have won that series. It changed the complexion of the whole playoffs.
Yeah, maybe.
You disagree?
The Avalanche are so good. They're just, the pace they play with is unreal. But no, it's been a good series. Like that game 1 they had, obviously game 2 they got blown out. But
yeah,
I don't care who wins for real. I just want to see some good hockey. But for some reason, I like to see the Lightning. They've won it twice. It'd be cool to see Maroon win. What would that be, 4 in a row at this point?
And the first one was with the Blues. So
yeah.
I'm kind of a Lightning fan with that.
And he started his career with the Flyers, who my team is, and they're terrible now. So it's
okay. Did you guys just get a new head coach?
We did. We got signed John Tortorella the other day. So hopefully that'll
be interesting.
If nothing else, the press conferences will be fun.
Yeah, he's a polarizing figure.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a hard.
I was trying to think, is there's really no one in fishing that does interviews or press conferences like coaches, right? Like I was trying to think of that because he's famous for either blowing up or not saying anything, not showing up, actually telling people what he actually thinks in very colorful language. Like, I mean, dude, I've done thousands of interviews as fishermen. I've not. The only thing I've ever had is one time Rick Morris did well, and I said, "Hey, interview for this," and he goes, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm Matt with BTL." He goes, "Where's this going?" And I said, "It'll be on the Bass Zone website." He goes, "When's it going out?" I said, "Tonight." And he's like, "Okay," and he did it. And then afterwards, I thought, you know what? That was really smart of him, because if some guy you don't know comes up and started grilling you about the James River, you'd probably give him the interview, but you don't know. He could be like the brother of the guy in second. Just snuck, you know what I mean? You have no idea where that material's going out.
That's very fair.
But anyway, that was a sidetrack. But yeah, no, I've been following the there's nothing like playoff hockey. And I always like playoff hockey because the finals typically fall right around the time that the smallmouth bass start to kick off. So like there's been times where you're smallmouth fishing and then you get to come home and watch the Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah, no,
it doesn't get any better than that. You played club at Penn State.
I did. Yeah,
they've got a D1 program now. Pretty good D1 program too.
Yeah, they were really good the first like 3-4 years. It's kind of tailed off a little bit. I'm not sure what the reason is for that, but I think it was my senior year was the first year they went D1. Mm-hmm. So it was cool. They were building the rink the year I was graduating, and I went up once after that. It's beautiful. That Terry Bagula that owns what's he got? The Buffalo Sabres and the Bills and whatever else he has. He was like, I donated a bunch of money for it, and they built a beautiful stadium up there, and it's like state of the art for a college rink.
OU, we were a D1 club, but one of the reasons I played at OU was they had the locker room, weight training facilities. It was like the number one club locker room, and they just got kicked out of their arena for an NAHL team that's going in there, and now they've got to drive to Edmond, which is UCO, which is the arch rivals, and play in the same barn as the arch rivals, University of Central Oklahoma, an hour from OU's campus, without a locker room.
That's brutal.
It's a program killer, man. Because there's there's like 3 sheets of ice in Oklahoma total. There's like Tulsa, UCO, and Oklahoma City. That's it. Like you don't go through like, Edmond and hit a rink. There's like rodeo arenas everywhere instead of ice arenas.
Yeah. It's not the place you expect to find a hockey team, that's for sure.
No. Do you play anymore at all ever?
Yeah, I got a game tonight at 8:15. Got an early one. Usually they're like 10:30 at night.
When was the last year you actually like played competitively?
2011.
Good Lord, you've kept with it for a decade?
Oh, I during the off season, I play on like 4 teams. I'm playing like 3-4 nights a week, and I love it.
Did you ever stop? Because I stopped. That was my problem.
No, I'll go like a month or 2 at a time without playing just because of travel. But I love it. It's the only exercise I get. I'm not a big go work out or go for a run. I need something. Playing. I need to be playing the game.
5 years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago was the last time. The hands weren't there. Obviously, the leg muscle's completely gone. It was miserable. I puked after 3 shifts. I had to stand back on defense and just pass.
When you're swinging up there at night, if you want to get into the game, bring your stuff.
You don't want that. Like, dude, you're probably like a top level men's league player. I would, if I signed up and there's like an A, B, C, and D league, I would legit start with the D league. Like, I want the guys that need the door open because they're not able to hop the boards.
That's too funny.
So anyway, Grae, I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on. And yeah, seriously, hit me up and we'll do some steaks or I don't know. We'll do some steaks or chicken or walleye. Yeah. Some walleye up at 09.
Plenty of them up there.
I know we cleared it last time. We could keep them with Chris Jones. I don't know if, because we were like, well, we read the rules and we were like, well, we can't put fish in the live well. And we were like, well, screw it, we'll just put them in the cooler. And then I was like, well, I'm out for official practice because I don't eat fish during official practice. But beforehand, those first days up until Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, limit of eyes in the box and any jumbo perch also gets a ride.
Cool. Well, that's a good deal.
Take it easy, Grae. Thanks.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
See ya.
See ya.
That was one of the good guys in the sport, Grae Buck, talking about the James River. Big shout out to Nick Lebrun. Thanks for being patient through. We had a couple of glitches there with phones overheating and calls knocking people off, but that's live. That's the beauty of live. So 2 really good guys. Nick Lebrun, back-to-back winning, talking about how he got it done at the James River. Grae Buck talking about breaking down tidal fisheries going up north, and we even got some hockey talk in the end there. Tomorrow, good show in studio. Brad Hallman, fresh off of his vacation, on the water today filming. He's been filming. He's ready to go. So tomorrow, Brad Hallman, and we also have Johnny Schultz from Fish the Moment on, who's going to jump on and talk about some interesting theories as opposed to fishing versus graphing and how you determine that. So this has been BTL for June 21st to Tuesday. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.